lot of job will get replaced.
A lot of the admin, so the transactional, yeah. Whenever I'm dealing with a legal issue, there's no point for me to ask that specialist lawyer anymore. I'm first going into Grok now, if not ChatGPT, cross-referencing multiple AI.
We basically mapped out every area of the practice, making it into one platform that the AI can assist or complete.
You shouldn't be using a call center.
In less than 2 years, they're going to get wiped out. You got to be on the lookout how you're going to handle that. If they don't move, there's not going to be a company left for them to use.
That's probably the department that's probably going to get disrupted most.
I knew it was coming. I just didn't want to be a victim of it. I also wanted to be in the front of the AI technology. Hello everyone, this is Hamid Kohan. I'm a CEO of LegalSolve and now also CEO of a new company called Law Practice AI. Welcome to our episode. I'm very happy to announce my friend, my partner, my colleague, Mollie is with us today.
And I hope more than that, personal best friends.
Best friends. So I'm happy to have AI conversation with Sam as he's been in front of it since many years ago. We've been talking and exploring all this AI, which is getting really crowded, crazy, and hard to navigate. So welcome to LegalSolve episode or Practice AI episode.
And thank you. Actually, this morning I analyzed our top podcasts that we do on the Law Entrepreneur, 45 episodes in, and I used AI to analyze what's the hottest topics. And of course, AI was the top topic. So we have a pretty interesting topic today. We're going to talk about what to expect, what to look forward to, how AI is going to be implemented, and how it's going to affect law firms. Hamid, my first question to you is, how long do you think it will take until we get replaced?
A lot of job will get replaced, especially entry-level positions, entry-level marketing, entry-level sales. Almost, I would say, 1/3 will be replaced because just like we predicted this about 7 years ago, now it's like from organic to virtual. So it's never going to be fully because it's not going to replace the attorney, but it's going to help a lot of attorneys do a better job and do it faster, cheaper.
A lot of the admin, so for law firms, that's signing up the clients, document collection, permission gathering, doing the filing, starting the filings at least.
Right.
Even the transactional, obviously drafting, the reviewing. Those
and transactional, all of it.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of lawyering when you don't litigate. So those transactional being like immigration, bankruptcy, uncontested divorces, estate planning. If you're not doing a lot of litigation, it's just essentially gathering information, analyzing it, coming up with a strategy, and then filling it out and submitting it, that's going to be wipe out 90% of that market.
I've noticed I'm asking less questions from my accountant and my lawyer colleagues whenever I'm dealing with a legal issue. I'm first going into Grok now. That's the first place I look at, if not ChatGPT, to cross-reference it. There's no point for me to ask that specialist lawyer anymore.
I had a contract attorney and retainer for the company that was running all of our agreements, contracts, subscription agreements and such. And now 90% of that I'm just using AI for basically terminated our contract attorney because at the best he was doing what I'm getting out of the AI.
I have a company called My Legal Academy. Our value proposition is essentially we implement a lot of the systems, the automations, the client generation systems for law firms. Can you tell us about what Practice AI does?
Sure.
How you're helping, and then let's bring into how AI is implemented.
About a couple of years ago, when I saw the AI direction, and I have a tech background, as you know, so I'm always interested in the tech patterns. I noticed two things. One, even the virtual staffing on the lower level is going to need AI and AI training to be able to survive the market. So that's why I opened up. We started a company called Law Practice AI because I knew it was coming. I just didn't want to be a victim of it. I also wanted to be in front of it for our clients. So we basically mapped out every area of the practice from running campaigns all the way to litigation support, making it into one platform that the AI can assist or complete. So also enabling our virtual staff and training them to be AI enabled. So we went from tech enabled, because when I started the virtual staffing stuff, I made them tech enabled to be able to use all the CRMs, teach them on the CRMs, communication system, lead management system, campaign management. So we made the tech enabled virtual staffing. Now we need to do AI version. So it had two purposes. One, to be in the front of the AI technology, any law firm, and also enhancing our virtual staff with the firms by equipping and training them to use AI. So that's how we started. So I'm very happy with the results so far. We released 3 products already, and consumer protection, which is medical summary report, which comes out in seconds, medical chronology, and actually PI demand. And everything is basically, if you are a PI firm and you have like 50 demands outstanding, I can get them for you in like 5 minutes.
One of the benefits that you see with being AI enabled, which you are an expert in, a lot of times times you approach law firms, one of the first things you analyze is the bottleneck of their law firms. Like basically, where are the clients in the different steps of their cases being handled?
Right.
So that enables quick little getting the clients through the pipeline. Second is cost savings. Instead of having 3 or 4 clerks that are taking care of that legal work, how do you talk that out? Like instead of having 3 or 4 clerks, how do you see that panning out?
That usually became a problem when I was actually consulting with the PI firms or even employment firms. It was like there's the cash flow in the contingency-based practices is always an issue. There's the money in the firm, but they can't get it out fast enough. So it prevents them from scaling, growing, taking money home and all of that. So I would look at the system and say, look, there is 85 demands in the backlog to be done. And basically to me, the demand was like an invoice. If you don't issue an invoice, nobody's going to pay you, basically. So I says, why don't we get rid of these 85 demands, which is totals $3 million worth of settlement. So-and-so is working on it, giving it to so-and-so to do the medical summary so the attorney or associate can review it and then write the demand and then give it to somebody to review. I said, well, this is what the problem is. This is a bottleneck. This is why it's not getting out fast enough. Then we're having a cash flow issue. If I could have magically make that go away and then just go right to the settlement, that's what the idea was of creating this automated demand, is remove the bottleneck. And sometimes they even spend the same amount of time, Sam, on minimum policy demand that they're spending on the 6-figure demand. It doesn't make any sense to spend all of this time so you can ask previous in California for $15,000 policy. You basically just burn that fee just trying to do the demands of medical summary. So there was a lot of motivations to automate that and then expanding from that backward and forward. So our next thing, again, was a challenge I had with the firms was the intake, call center stuff out the door. I don't trust nobody with my 7-figure case call. So that's one going away, having a full-time intake staff 24/7 to do it. Then be able to escalate those high-value calls and high-value cases. So now we're releasing in a few months intake that it is customized for personal injury intake that reduces the cost of the intake, optimizes the process, and it also escalates. So if you get this 7-figure call, our AI analyzes it, identifies it, and immediately sends it to the attorney, transfers the call while they're on the call. You need to talk to this client. This is a 7-figure case. That escalation process. So there's a lot involved in that, but I see this going on for a while.
You mentioned intake AI, which is something also we focus on in my legal academy, and it was one that I spotted super early because I realized that's probably the department that's probably going to get disrupted the most, and it's also the most highest value one that if you do disrupt that one, not only do you save a lot of money on your team, but actually your conversion rates go up, which every conversion rate that you fix on the front end translates itself on the back end, and these are like literally a difference of millions of dollars a year if you're optimizing your intake conversion rates essentially. I want to talk about the different methods.
There's one more thing about the intake.
Yeah, please.
Because for those guys who are actually using call centers, in less than 2 years, you're not going to find a call center to use because they're going to get wiped out because you don't no longer have a room sitting of 200 people unincentivized, tracked by the minute, billable minutes, and they're going to take care of you and your firm. They're not going to exist to be able to even use them. So you got to be on the lookout how you're going to handle that.
You shouldn't be using a call center. You should have your own call center.
Oh, you should. But I'm saying there's a lot of people that are still using call centers for after hours, weekends, and so forth, and sometimes even during the day. If they don't move, they're not going to be a company left for them to use.
Or you'll be beat by a law firm who has 100% responsiveness with AI.
Right.
Answers 24/7 with good attitude.
Yeah.
Who's friendly, who's nice. I went to Tesla's iRobot event. It was a couple of months ago, and I experienced the robots in person. We hear about robots, we see them on video, but experiencing in real person, it was something that I cannot explain. It was a very attractive, charming experience. So you're like attracted, like when you meet somebody at a party who's very charming and very attractive, you just like want to hang out with them. It was the same exact feeling. And it was like so in awe about how friendly and nice and humorous this robot was. And they were just like so engaged talking with them. This is amazing. But the rest of the world, 99% of the world doesn't know how amazing or that this thing is real and it's coming, the next thing. So once you experience it for yourself and all these things we talk about intake AI, on the other side, being signed up as a client with AI, you see how much better that is versus potentially a call center that is overseas. Maybe it's hard to hear or to have accents or whatever that is. And then you realize, wait a minute, this is the optimized way.
Exactly. And the intake that we are planning to release, it actually real-time adjusts itself to the personality, demographic, answers to the questions of the client they're talking to. So imagine if you have somebody on the call who can be real-time trained and adjust to the client's conversation. And like don't be too friendly, too cold, too loud, too quiet.
Empathetic.
Is empathetic or not, just adjusts completely and is bilingual. So we really aim high to be able to replace a lot of intake services within the industry.
So I want to talk about the methods that intake AI is able to contact prospects. So there's text, text, there's voice, and there's video. What we found is so far the text is the proven easiest way to set up, easiest way to optimize, easiest way to continue the training. Voice so far still has some room for improvement. What have you seen, and where do you imagine most of the interaction with prospects happening?
I think it's a combination of technology with AI that makes the voice to work. It can't just be a machine sounding sort of a conversation. It needs to really almost have a personality. So we're trying to build it with other tools and other technology that gives it a personality and is not dry. So that's probably one of the biggest challenge. Also, the challenge was like when I have an intake person or salesperson, whatever you want to call it, when I'm telling them to engage with the client this way, and if he doesn't respond, then do this and this. The old way of programming, we used to call it a what if statement. If this happened, you do this, and if this didn't happen, you do that. And then using all the methods that you mentioned. You're on the call with them, he doesn't answer, you text them. Text doesn't answer, you send the email. Even as far as going to the social media and connecting with them on the social media. Imagine the AI was basically using all the resources around to connect to the potential client and then get engaged. And once got engaged, you want to stop until they're retained. So actually send them a retainer, wait for it to be signed and get it back so you can say, I finished the process. So that's our goal.
Which practice types do you imagine? Let's do different tiers. Where's the first tier of practice types that are going to be disrupted versus second tier and third tier?
Our first target, because of our dynamic or clients and networks and so forth, is obviously personal injury. It has the biggest ROI for the client. Being able to get that 6-7 figure client signed up. From the ROI point of view is that. Then it goes into employment and labor and mass torts and so forth. From the customization of the intake process for different practice type. And last is transactional, which is pretty straightforward. I'm just collecting information. Who are you? Where are you? What do you want to do? Kind of a thing. That's our migration process, starting with personal injury.
Got it. I think you mentioned transactional services being disrupted first. You want to talk that out, and then how much of a litigation type of law firms do you see being disrupted as well?
When you look at the transactional law firms, 95+% of cases they do is non-litigation. Is essentially like, I want to file a Chapter 7, I want to file a Chapter 11. Uncontested divorces. We just basically do the paperwork, file it, wait for approval. Immigration is going to be one of the first ones. We actually have launched the immigration AI development. So you basically ask you, what do you want to do? What's your goal? And then here's the forms you need to fill out, the documents to provide. By the way, if you're coming for a student visa from India and you're filling out the application, instead of saying, I'm applying for a Stanford to get in there with less than 1% acceptance rate, the AI will tell you, well, your chances are like 0.001 to get in. But if you apply for the same major in University of Wisconsin, your acceptance rate goes to 95%. So which one you want to choose? You can still apply for Stanford, but you can go over and get a better conversion rate, basically. So the AI in the transaction is also going to be doing a lot more advising than a typical attorney would do from the playbook anyway. It's not like they make the law, they just follow it and make recommendations. On transactional law, the law is already preset, but they don't get the right advice on what to do.
As part of my legal academy, we focus a lot on the intake AI kind of component and also helping the law firms using the different AI tools to be able to support them in whatever they do in the legal work. Another initiative that we have is called Vanguard AI, where basically we plug into a law firm's CRM to be able to tap into the golden oil, which is data that every law firm is sitting on. What are the insights that law firms have in their CRM that'll be useful for AI to be able to pinpoint those insights to be able to help you make better decisions?
They have a lot of historical data. Historical data is the foundation of the AI, which you can go in there and find out that the last 100 clients and cases in these locations that the firm has signed up and worked on them for 2 years, and the outcome of it, it would analyze that, compares it to the case I just signed yesterday. And basically, based on that analysis, it's going to tell me this case is going to settle in 9 months based on your existing process. This is the processes and resources it's going to take to settle it. This is your average fee you're going to get from this case. And this is the average cost of the case. So basically, your ROI is $12,645 because it already has the data. You've done it before for 100,000 clients. I already know what you do and how you do it. So I'm going to compare that and tell you what you're going to make from the case you just signed 5 minutes ago. This is something no attorney has been able to do because they always say, well, this one is a little different. To AI, the ideas, but I'm going to compare it with the other 500 cases you done. That point is not that different.
A lot of data that people use at this point is reactionary, right? You get data and then you react to the data. But I think the value of a DSS, decision support systems, is it makes it proactive data. Now you're actually getting this data to do something about it right now that'll help you make decisions. So yeah, I just want to highlight what you said is plugging into the ultimate number, which which is like settlements for your clients. Where's the patterns of what type of clients they are, when they became clients, from where they came from, what type of clients they are, to help you. One is optimize those different types of clients. So maybe you may have 2 or 3 different types of clients typically, and most of your value of your clients is coming from this particular type.
Right.
So do we have the resources and the teams and infrastructure to increase that? And then sometimes even to cut out the bottom fat. These are the types that actually bring us the lowest value of clients,
right,
that take the longest, also are the most annoying clients. You want to
like to refer them out. That's what people do.
I always wonder, Hamid, sometimes if it's being constantly referred out, who's actually doing the legal work?
Well, in some practice type, nobody. And they know it too. They don't do much. We just, like one of the things you just mentioned about the DSS, which is, for those who don't know, is a decision support system. It's been around for 30 plus years.
70s or 80s?
80s that I've been involved with. It's a decision support system, which basically means with all the data that they have access to and analysis that they do, I want to make a buy or make decision. I want to make any kind of investment decision. I want to make a decision as a business owner, as a company, as a department. I want to make a decision. Does the data pattern and historical data supports my decision of yes or no? That's what the DSS is supposed to be. A lot of people still mix that up with the data warehousing or data mining and stuff like that. I want to buy this building. I run it through DSS. The DSS tells me you're crazy, you shouldn't, because based on this analysis, your ROI is not significant enough to do that. So it's a decision support system. So that's on one side. The second thing you said about the patterns within the data that determines the value of the case or outcome of the case. And these attorneys know that the demographic makes a huge difference. The settlement of the same accident with a 60-year-old male is very different than a 26-year-old female. The data knows that. So when you compare it with the recent signups, you say, same case, same injuries and everything, but my client is a much older demographic. So my expectation is a lot less from the outcome, or opposite. Those are very, very important. When you're doing the legal academy, what has been the acceptance conversion of the group within your network when you're talking about AI? Because, there's a whole bunch of people sitting on the sidelines that you've seen when you go to these conferences. It's like, AI, I'm still cannot even work remote myself. And then you're talking AI. And there are other people who are just testing it. And there is other category who are actually in it.
Overall positive, because we're getting a small sample size of the finest, most tech forward-thinking, entrepreneur-minded, into productivity, self-development kinds of people into our ecosystem. So that is very different from what the actual reality of the actual market is. We had this kind of epiphany at our conference. We had 100 lawyers there. But in order for those 100 lawyers to end up there, back at the napkin math is we ran ads, probably about, I would say like 5 to 10 million people, lawyers have seen our ads online. Then out of that, I believe we had like 5,000 applications. About, I think at the time it was like 400 or 500 people who would join our program. And at the 400 or 500, there was 100 people that showed up to our conference.
Right.
So, and then out of that, there was even a smaller sect that we consider our insiders that we looked around like, wow, everyone got filtered down to the best of the best. So yeah, it depends on the sample size, I guess you're looking at. Yeah. But ours actually pleasantly surprised, and we always take a poll questions before we start a webinar, especially with our AI masterminds. Ask, well, number one, are you using ChatGPT?
Right.
The most popular AI tool in the world. And then if so, how frequently do you use it? Monthly, weekly, daily, or throughout the day? And I actually tracked the results of when I asked this a couple of months ago versus a year ago, and I saw that there's been a shift in the daily people, at least in our world, are using on a daily basis, which is
No, I remember your conference. It was very impressive, and you could tell the dynamic of the room. These are frontiers. They don't want to do everything traditionally other attorneys before them have done, follow them. Like, let me find out where does this guy advertise or what software he used, so I go use the exact same thing. These were all very hungry people, hungry attorneys who says, I want to be in the front of it.